The galaxy was a place of power, mystery, and endless battles. Alien species from different corners of the universe had fought wars, built empires, and shaped the stars in their image. It had always been the way of the universe, strong races rising to the top while others faded into the darkness. But one race, the humans of Earth, had always been looked at as weak and insignificant. They had never been a true threat to the galactic order. That was, until today. The Defies, an advanced and ruthless alien race, had just finished a major victory over a group of lesser species in a remote sector of the galaxy. Their warships, massive and heavily armed, were unmatched by anything the galaxy had seen before. Their weapons could tear through fleets in a matter of moments. The Defies had crushed their enemies with ease, and they expected their dominance to remain unchallenged. However, as they celebrated their victory, something unexpected happened. A strange blip appeared on their radar. It was small, almost insignificant in comparison to the massive fleets they were used to. At first, they ignored it. It was probably just some debris or an unnoticed asteroid. But the blip kept moving, getting closer with alarming speed. "Is it a ship?" Commander Vaktar of the Defies asked, his voice cold as he stared at the radar screen. The blip was now clearly moving in their direction. Something was not right. "Impossible," his officer replied, adjusting the controls. "There are no records of any human ships this far out. It must be a mistake." Vaktar leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. Humans were not a threat. Their technology was primitive compared to the Defies. They had no warships capable of navigating the galaxy, much less surviving in the most dangerous sectors. The thought of a human ship here, of all places, was absurd. Yet the blip persisted, and it was getting closer. Then, without warning, the ship appeared. At first, the Defies couldn't believe their eyes. The ship wasn't like anything they had ever seen before. It was sleek, dark, and ominous. Its surface seemed to shimmer with a strange energy, and the ship's shape was unlike any known design. It was far smaller than any of the Defies warships, but the moment it appeared, the Defies felt something was off. This ship wasn't like anything they had expected. This wasn't just some lost human vessel. Vaktar's mind raced as he processed the situation. The ship was moving in a way that defied everything he knew about space travel. It moved with incredible speed, its trajectory precise and controlled. It wasn't just following the natural course of space. It was navigating with purpose. "Prepare for contact," Vaktar ordered, his voice steady but laced with unease. The ship continued to close in on them, and the Defies warships began to position themselves for a potential battle. Still, they did not believe this human ship posed any real threat. It was small, unarmed, just a strange anomaly in their path. Then, it happened. The human warship fired a single shot. The Defies commander didn't even see it coming. One moment, their shields were intact, and the next, they were shattered like glass. The blast from the human ship was unlike anything the Defies had ever encountered. It was powerful, immensely powerful. It tore through the Defies warship's shields with ease and caused the ship to shake violently. "What is this?" One of the officers gasped in disbelief as the ship's systems flickered and alarms blared. Vaktar's mind raced. "Impossible," he shouted. "That should not be possible." The human warship fired again, hitting another Defies ship. This time, the blast was so strong that it ripped right through the hull, tearing the ship apart. The Defies didn't even have time to retaliate before their ship was crippled. Panic spread through the fleet. The human ship continued its assault, picking off Defies ships one by one. There was no hesitation, no mercy. Each shot was calculated and precise. The Defies ships were being systematically destroyed in a way that was too efficient to be the work of a mere human vessel. The Defies were in shock. How could a human ship possess such power? Vaktar stood frozen, unable to believe what he was witnessing. He had seen countless battles, fought against some of the strongest species in the galaxy, but this This was different. This was something that defied logic. As the battle raged on, more and more Defies ships were destroyed. The remaining fleet commanders sent out desperate calls for reinforcements, but it seemed that nothing could stop the human warship's relentless assault. "We need to retreat," Vokhtar finally said, his voice filled with anger and disbelief. "We've underestimated them." The Defies fleet began to pull back, their once unstoppable force now in full retreat. The human warship had proven itself far more powerful than anything they could have imagined. It was not just a ship, it was a statement. The galaxy would have to take notice. Back on Earth, Commander Rachel Daniels stood in the control room of the warship, watching the battle unfold on a screen. Her face was stoic, but inside, she couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. This wasn't just about victory. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humans were no longer to be underestimated. The Defies fleet had been shattered, their forces retreating in disarray. The human warship, under the command of Rachel Daniels, had just accomplished what no one in the galaxy had thought possible. The once mighty Defies, known for their relentless conquests and terrifying war machines, had been beaten by a single human ship. As the remaining Defies ships vanished into the depths of space, Commander Daniels stood in front of the battle monitor aboard the warship. She watched the last Defies ship flicker out of sight, its hull burning as it made a hasty retreat. There was no time to celebrate. The warship had done its job, but this was only the beginning. The galaxy was about to change in ways no one could predict. "Captain," Rachel said, turning to the officer beside her, "send out a message. We've just proven ourselves. Now, the galaxy needs to know. Humanity is not to be underestimated." The captain nodded, quickly transmitting a message to the Galactic Council, the most powerful and influential leaders in the galaxy. They had been watching the battle from afar, but they hadn't been prepared for the full extent of human capabilities. The message was simple but direct. Humanity's rise begins now. Do not underestimate us. Across the galaxy, the message spread quickly, reaching the ears of many who had laughed at the idea of humans being a significant power. Those who had thought humans weak now realized they were wrong. The human warship's power was undeniable. As news of the battle spread, the reactions varied. Some races, already cautious of humanity, began to question whether they had made a mistake by ignoring Earth for so long. Others, however, saw an opportunity to take advantage of the humans, thinking they could either form an alliance or destroy them before they became too strong. But there was one reaction that stood out above all others, the reaction of the Galactic Council. The council was made up of representatives from the most advanced and powerful species in the galaxy, and it had long held the belief that no species could challenge their dominance. The council was accustomed to making decisions that affected the fates of entire worlds, and they had always assumed that humanity would stay on the fringes, never capable of threatening their control. But now, everything had changed. The council's leaders, once confident in their unchallenged power, found themselves faced with an unexpected new reality. Humanity was no longer a small, insignificant species. They had just proven that they could take on the strongest force in the galaxy and win. The council convened urgently. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy gathered, and tension filled the room as they discussed the implications of the human warship's victory. Some council members argued that it was a fluke, that one human warship could not possibly represent the entire species, but others were not so sure. "Humanity's warship has just taken down a fleet of Defies ships," one council member said, his voice steady but filled with unease. "This is not a small victory. The Defies have been a dominant force for centuries, and they've never been beaten like this. If humans can build a ship like that, who knows what else they are capable of?" The room fell silent. The Defies, once thought invincible, had been reduced to nothing more than a retreating shadow. And the galaxy now had to face the possibility that humans were no longer weak. They were a force to be reckoned with. "We cannot ignore this," another council member said, her voice sharp. "The humans may be unpredictable, but we cannot afford to let them challenge our authority." As the debate continued, Commander Rachel Daniels sat at the helm of her warship, watching the stars stretch out before her. She had known this day would come. The galaxy had no idea who they were dealing with. The human warship was only the beginning. What they had seen so far was only a glimpse of humanity's potential. "Prepare for our next move," Rachel said to her crew, her eyes fixed on the vastness of space. "We've made our mark. Now, we need to make sure the galaxy knows that we are here to stay." The human warship, though still largely a mystery to the galaxy, was already making waves. The impossible victory over the Defies was just the first step. Commander Daniels knew that more battles were ahead, and she had no intention of backing down. If the galaxy thought humans were weak, they would soon learn the hard way that they were wrong. As the ship set course for their next destination, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get a lot more complicated. The Defies would regroup, but there were other, more dangerous forces out there. Forces that would test humanity in ways they had never been tested before. But Rachel had one thing on her side: humanity's determination. The impossible had already been done. And now, the galaxy would have to face the full force of humanity's potential. There would be no stopping them. The humans weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for their place in the stars. The news of humanity's victory spread quickly across the galaxy, leaving waves of shock and disbelief in its wake. Species that had once seen humans as nothing more than an insignificant race on a small, distant planet began to question everything they had thought they knew. The Defies, the once dominant force in the galaxy, had been humbled by a single human warship. No one had ever expected this outcome. And now, the galaxy was forced to confront a terrifying new reality. Humanity had power. In the vast and cold depths of space, alien fleets scrambled to reassess their strategies. The Galactic Council, which had long considered itself the supreme authority, now found itself in a state of panic. The humans were not just a new player. They were an unpredictable and potentially dangerous force. On the bridge of the Defies warship, Vokhtar stood in front of a large tactical display. His eyes narrowed as he reviewed the aftermath of the humiliating defeat. The retreat from the human warship had been swift, but the damage was more profound than he had anticipated. The Defies ships were battered, their shields broken, and their pride shattered. "Send a message to the Council," Vokhtar growled, his voice thick with anger. "We must prepare for what is to come." Back on Earth, Commander Rachel Daniels sat in the control room of her warship, her hands folded neatly on the table in front of her. The victory over the Defies had been swift and decisive, but she knew it was only a matter of time before the galaxy would turn its attention toward humanity. The question wasn't whether they would respond, it was how. The fleet's communications officer entered, holding a data pad in his hands. "Commander, we've received a transmission from the Galactic Council." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. The Council was the most powerful body in the galaxy. They could declare war on humanity, or they could choose to make an alliance. Whatever decision they made, it would shape the future of the human race. "Put it through," she ordered. The hologram of the Council's representative appeared in front of her. A tall, imposing alien with glowing eyes and shimmering blue skin. The representative's expression was stern, but not without a hint of curiosity. "Commander Rachel Daniels," the representative began, his voice low and formal. "We have watched your recent actions with great interest. The Defies have informed us of your victory. We find ourselves perplexed." Rachel leaned forward. "Perplexed? You've seen the same thing the Defies saw. Humanity is a force to be reckoned with." The Council representative's eyes flickered briefly, as if weighing his next words carefully. "While we respect the bravery of your species, your actions have brought us to a crossroads. We have long upheld a certain order in the galaxy, and your sudden rise disrupts that balance." Rachel's pulse quickened. This wasn't a simple acknowledgement of victory. This was a warning. "Are you threatening humanity?" she asked, her voice firm. The representative's gaze softened, though his tone remained serious. Not a threat, Commander, but a statement of fact. Your species has not yet earned the trust of the galaxy. The TK's defeat is a concerning sign. We cannot allow such power to go unchecked. Rachel's mind raced. What did the Council want? Did they see humanity as a threat, or were they merely trying to test her? Either way, this would not be the end of it. The Council will meet to decide how best to handle your emergence, the representative continued. Expect further contact. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a tense silence in its wake. Rachel stared at the empty space where the hologram had been, her thoughts swirling. She had expected a response from the Council, but not like this. The threat wasn't clear, but it was there. The Council would not allow humanity to grow unchecked, and that meant they would come for Earth. Soon. We need to be ready, she said quietly, turning to her crew. The galaxy won't sit idly by while we rise. We have to prepare for whatever comes next. Rachel's second-in-command, a seasoned officer named Lieutenant Torres, nodded gravely. We'll get to work immediately, Commander. But even as the crew began their preparations, there was a sense of unease among them. No one knew exactly what the Council would do, but they all understood one thing. Humanity had just set off a chain of events that could either lead to destruction or something far more dangerous. Across the galaxy, many species were watching the humans with growing interest. Some saw the potential for an alliance, believing that the humans could help them challenge the power of the Council. Others, like the Urak, a brutal race of conquerors, saw humanity's victory as a sign of weakness among the Council's forces, a weakness they could exploit. The Urak were an ancient and warlike species. They had long harbored designs on Earth, seeing the planet's resources and strategic position as valuable assets. Now that humans had proven themselves capable of defeating the TK, the Urak began to see an opportunity. Perhaps the humans could be manipulated, used as pawns in their own struggle for dominance. Send a message to the humans, Commander Valtak of the Urak ordered his communications officer. Let's see if we can convince them to join our cause. Back on Earth, Commander Daniels was unaware of the Urak's interest. She had other concerns. The Council was just the beginning. What would happen if other forces, like the Urak or the Korans, chose to test humanity? Would they be ready? As the warship drifted through the stars, Rachel looked out into the infinite blackness of space. She had made her mark. But this was only the beginning. The galaxy's response to humanity's unexpected rise was just starting, and it would not be long before humanity's true test arrived. The calm of space was deceptive. Beneath the surface, the galaxy was bubbling with anxiety and fear. The implications of humanity's victory over the TK had rippled across the stars, and now every major power was reconsidering their stance toward Earth. The once unnoticed humans were now a significant force to be reckoned with, and many could not decide whether to see them as an ally, a threat, or something far worse, a wild card. On Earth, Commander Rachel Daniels stood in front of the warship's main holo display, staring at a map of the galaxy. A dozen systems that had once been on the fringes of galactic attention were now in play. She had expected the Council's reaction, but what came next was far from predictable. The warship's tactical sensors had detected several unconfirmed ships making their way toward Earth's position. Some familiar, others not. One thing was certain: the galaxy had taken notice. Her thoughts were interrupted by Lieutenant Torres, who entered the command center with urgent news. "Commander, you need to see this," Torres said, handing her a datapad. Rachel took the pad and scanned it. A transmission from the Galactic Council. But this time, there was no formal greeting. The message was blunt, even harsh. Humanity has disturbed the balance of power. You will face the consequences of your actions. Prepare. The message sent a chill down Rachel's spine. There was no plea for peace, no diplomatic overture. The Council was prepared to do whatever it took to keep humanity in line. But Rachel knew that they couldn't be intimidated. Not now. She had fought too hard to get here. Are they going to attack? Torres asked, his voice filled with concern. "We're going to find out," Rachel answered coldly, locking her eyes on the transmission. "But we won't be caught off guard. Get our forces ready. This could be just the beginning." Across the galaxy, other powers were also preparing. The Urak, a ruthless and calculating species, saw the growing tension as an opportunity. Their fleet moved silently toward Earth's solar system, their warships preparing for an encounter with the human fleet. They saw humanity's victory over the Tikai as a sign that they could work with the humans, if the humans were willing to bend to their will. Commander Valtak of the Urak didn't see humans as potential equals. No, to him, they were pawns in a larger game. He had long been wary of the Galactic Council, and now he sought a chance to weaken their power by creating an alliance with the humans. But would they accept? That was the gamble. Meanwhile, on the fringes of the galaxy, the Gutter, a race of highly intelligent but isolationist beings, observed everything carefully from their hidden bases. The Gutter had long kept to themselves, avoiding galactic politics, but the rise of humanity could shift the entire balance of power, forcing even the most reclusive species to reconsider their stance. As Rachel sat in the command center of her warship, analyzing every new development, she knew one thing for certain: humanity had just stepped into the game. But the stakes were higher than she could have ever imagined. Far from Earth, on the edge of an unknown galaxy, an emergency transmission was being sent to the Galactic Council. The message, however, was not from a recognized species. The transmission came from an ancient, hidden race, the Enraxi, whose existence had been long forgotten by the majority of the galaxy. Their message was simple, but its implications were dire. The humans are not what they seem. They are not just a race of survivors. They are a race of warlords. The Enraxi had observed humanity for centuries, hidden in the shadows, studying the patterns of their development. What they saw now was terrifying. The humans were on the rise, and if left unchecked, they could destabilize the entire galaxy. On the Enraxi ship, Admiral Qatar stared at the message, his hand gripping the armrest of his chair. His people had survived for millennia by remaining hidden, unnoticed. But the rise of humanity could change everything. If the humans allied with the wrong forces, the galaxy would fall into chaos. "We must act quickly," Admiral Qatar muttered to his officers. "Send a warning to the Galactic Council. Humanity must be contained before they disrupt everything." Back on Earth, Commander Daniels faced an impossible decision. Her warship had proven humanity's strength, but the galaxy was closing in. The Council was not going to let humanity's rise go unchecked, and the Urak were ready to pounce. Rachel knew that Earth couldn't survive a war against the entire galaxy. "We need allies," she said to her crew, determination in her eyes. "But we can't trust everyone. We'll need to play the game, but on our terms." Lieutenant Torres stepped forward. "Do you think we can trust the Urak or the Council?" "I don't trust anyone right now," Rachel replied, "but we need to keep our options open. The galaxy might be preparing for war, but we can still make our mark." The tension in the air was thick as Rachel turned back to the holographic map. The future of humanity was hanging by a thread, and the galaxy was closing in fast. Rachel knew that whatever happened next, humanity had to be ready to face its greatest challenge yet. But there was something else on her mind. If the Council and the Urak saw humanity as a threat, then maybe, just maybe, the galaxy was about to get its first taste of what it truly meant to face the wrath of a human warship. The days following the mysterious transmission from the Enraxi were filled with uncertainty. Humanity's victory over the Tikai was still fresh in everyone's mind, but the Council's warning made it clear that the galaxy would not allow Earth to go unchallenged. Commander Rachel Daniels stood in the command center, her fingers resting on the edge of the table, staring at the holo display that showed an expanding circle of alien fleets approaching the solar system. "We're running out of time," Rachel muttered under her breath, her voice filled with both determination and concern. "They're coming for us." Her officers exchanged nervous glances. They had no idea what was truly happening beyond the stars, but the reality of their situation was clear. The galactic powers were converging on Earth, and every species in the galaxy seemed to have their own agenda. "Commander," Lieutenant Torres spoke up, his voice steady but with a touch of worry. "We're receiving another transmission from the Galactic Council." Rachel immediately turned toward the communications officer, who quickly activated the holographic screen in front of her. This time, the message was accompanied by an armed guard, the unmistakable insignia of the Council's military forces visible on his uniform. The representative appeared as well, but this time his demeanor was far more serious. "Commander Daniels," the representative began, his voice tight, "you have forced our hand. We can no longer ignore the rise of humanity, nor can we allow you to continue your unchecked expansion. The galaxy must remain in balance." Rachel leaned forward, her eyes narrowed. "So, what is it that you want from us?" The representative hesitated for a moment, his eyes flicking to the guard before meeting Rachel's gaze once again. "It is not what we want, Commander. It is what we must do. The other powers will not accept this disruption. You must cease your aggressive actions, or we will be forced to take action ourselves." Rachel's jaw clenched. She had known the Council would make a move, but hearing it directly from them only confirmed her fears. The galaxy was preparing to shut humanity down before they could rise further. This wasn't just about peace. It was about maintaining control. "We won't back down," Rachel replied, her voice firm. "If you want Earth, you're going to have to come through us." The representative's gaze darkened, and he gave a short nod. "Then the consequences are yours to bear." Before Rachel could respond, the transmission abruptly ended, leaving her standing in the quiet hum of the command center. Her officers exchanged uneasy glances, waiting for her to speak. "We've got our orders," she said finally. "Prepare for whatever is coming." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Urak had gathered in secret. Their fleet had been silently moving toward Earth's solar system, ready to make their move. The TK were no longer a threat, but now the Urak saw an opportunity to establish themselves as the new power in the galaxy, and they weren't going to wait for the Council's permission. Commander Valtak of the Urak stood on the bridge of his warship, staring at the galaxy map. His fleet was poised to make its move, but the arrival of the Galactic Council's military forces complicated things. If the humans could be persuaded to join them, the Urak would have an invaluable ally in the coming war. If not, they would take Earth by force. "We don't need the Council's approval to act," Valtak muttered to himself. "We can take what we need, with or without their help." He turned toward his second-in-command, a cold-blooded officer named Kikl. "Prepare the fleet. Make sure our signal to humanity is clear. If they want to survive, they need to choose a side." Kikl nodded, her eyes gleaming with a predatory intensity. "Understood, Commander. We'll see if we can convince them, one way or another." Back on Earth, Rachel stood alone in her quarters, staring out the window at the stars. She knew the Council wasn't going to stop coming for them, and the Urak's intentions were equally dangerous. Humanity's position was precarious at best. In the span of a few short weeks, Earth had gone from a forgotten planet to the center of galactic attention. The stakes were higher than ever. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of her communications officer's voice crackling over the intercom. "Commander, you need to see this." Rachel turned quickly and walked back to the command center. The officer handed her a data pad, which displayed an urgent message. It was from a known neutral party, an independent species that had once traded with Earth's early space missions. The message was simple: "We are not alone. There is another force watching, waiting. You are not the only ones the Council fears." Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. Another force. Who could it be? She had heard rumors of ancient alien races that had remained hidden for centuries, but they had been dismissed as myths. Could they be real? If so, could they be an ally, or would they become another threat to humanity's survival? We have no choice but to find out, Rachel said, her mind racing. Prepare for all contingencies. I want all options on the table. As her officers moved into action, Rachel realized that the galaxy was not just closing in, it was becoming a battlefield, and humanity was right in the middle of it. The tension in Earth's command center was palpable. Every officer, every crew member, seemed to feel the weight of what was coming. The transmission from the neutral party had sent ripples through their strategy, introducing a new element into the equation, something they couldn't ignore. Commander Rachel Daniels paced the command center, the flashing lights of the holodisplays casting long shadows across her face. The Iraq fleet was now approaching, their intentions unclear. The Galactic Council had made their threats. But now, there was talk of an unknown force, one that no one had anticipated, and it was watching them from the dark corners of space. Commander, Lieutenant Torres spoke, his voice low with concern. Our sensors are picking up something unusual near the edge of the system. It's not a Iraq fleet. It's something else entirely. Rachel stopped in her tracks, her brow furrowing. What do you mean? How can that be possible? Torres hesitated, scanning his datapad. It's a small fleet, heavily shielded, but our long-range scanners can't identify it. It's too different from anything we've encountered. They've been moving slowly, staying on the outer edges of our reach. But if they're not the Iraq, then who are they? Rachel didn't have an answer. The galaxy was already on the brink of chaos, and now a new mystery had been added to the mix. The unknown fleet wasn't a threat yet, but the uncertainty it caused was far more dangerous. Keep an eye on them, Rachel ordered. We need more intel before we make any decisions, and make sure the rest of the fleet is on high alert. We don't know if these new players are on our side or not. Thousands of light years away, on the warship of the Galactic Council, High Commander Voss prepared for the next stage of their operation. He stood at the center of the bridge, staring out at the holographic map of the galaxy, watching as humanity's warship moved toward the edge of their reach. The Council's fleets were already en route to Earth, preparing to engage with the humans. I do not trust them, Voss said, his voice cutting through the stillness of the room. The Council had been hesitant to confront humanity directly, but it seemed that their hand had been forced. After the humans had made their move against the Tikai, there had been whispers among the galaxy's elites that humanity might possess some ancient, untapped power, something that made them dangerous. It was a power that needed to be controlled, if not crushed entirely. High Commander, said his second-in-command, a cold and calculating officer named Lyra, what of the unknown fleet we detected near Earth? Could they pose a threat? Voss turned to face her, his expression grim. We need to proceed carefully. The unknown fleet could be an ally, or it could be the force that upends everything. We cannot take the risk of underestimating them. He paced in front of the tactical display. We need to offer humanity an ultimatum. But we must prepare for the possibility that this new force will come into play. Our ships will not be the only ones at Earth's doorstep. On Earth, Rachel sat at the table, her fingers tapping rhythmically against the metal surface. The uncertainty of the moment weighed heavily on her. With the Iraq preparing for one assault, the Galactic Council's fleets closing in, and now an unknown force lurking in the shadows, it felt like the galaxy was closing in from all sides. We can't fight them all at once, Torres said, his tone urgent as he entered the room with new data. We need a strategy. We need time. Rachel looked up, her expression hardening. We don't have time. The Iraq and the Council won't wait for us to come up with a perfect plan. We could reach out to the unknown fleet, Torres suggested hesitantly. We could try to make contact, offer them a chance to ally with us before the Council and Iraq can act. Rachel hesitated. The idea of making a deal with an unknown force was dangerous, but the risks of facing the Iraq and the Council without allies were too high. The question was, how could they reach out to an unknown fleet without making themselves more vulnerable? We don't have much of a choice, Rachel said, her voice steady despite the rising anxiety within her. "Prepare a message. We'll offer them an alliance. If they're watching us, they'll know how serious we are." Light years away, the hidden fleet observed Earth with growing interest. The unknown species watching humanity's every move were old, ancient even, far older than the Galactic Council or the Urak. They had been in hiding for centuries, watching the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They had watched as humanity's power grew, as they defied expectations at every turn. The Anraxi, the ones who had sent the warning, saw in humanity a reflection of their own past, a race that had once been mighty, but had been shattered by their own ambition. They had stayed hidden, unwilling to repeat their mistakes. But now, with humanity on the rise, the Anraxi were forced to decide. Should they help the humans rise to power, or should they watch them fall, the way the rest of the galaxy seemed determined to do? In the heart of their warship, the Anraxi leaders gathered to discuss their options. Their voices echoed in the darkened chamber, tense with uncertainty. "We must decide quickly," the lead Anraxi commander said, his voice low. "The humans have sent an offer. They seek an alliance, but can we trust them?" Another Anraxi officer, a young strategist named Krell, spoke up. "They are a force of nature. I believe they are more than they appear. Perhaps we should offer them the power we once lost ourselves." The chamber fell silent, and all eyes turned to the lead commander. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Then it is decided. We will make our move." Back on Earth, Rachel's message had been sent. Now, the crew of the warship could only wait, but the darkness outside the solar system was growing deeper by the day, and the clock was ticking. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and humanity had just made the most dangerous decision of its existence. The weight was unbearable. Commander Rachel Daniels stood on the bridge of the human warship, staring at the stars outside. She had sent the message to the unknown fleet, hoping for an alliance that could tip the scales in humanity's favor. But the silence from the mysterious fleet had been deafening. Every passing hour felt like a lifetime. "We're running out of options, Commander," Lieutenant Torres said, his voice tense. "The Council and the Urak fleets are almost within range. We won't be able to hold them off for long." Rachel's mind raced. She couldn't let Earth fall, not after everything they had fought for. But the pressure was mounting, and every decision they made seemed to lead them closer to destruction. Suddenly, a blip appeared on the tactical screen. It was faint at first, but it quickly grew in intensity. A new signal, coming from the farthest edge of the solar system. The unknown fleet had finally made contact. On screen, Rachel commanded, her heart racing. The tension in the room was palpable as the massive holographic display lit up. A new fleet had emerged from the shadows, a fleet unlike anything they had ever seen. Their ships were sleek and dark, unlike the crude designs of the Urak or the polished bureaucratic fleets of the Council. The ships were ancient, their technology far superior to anything humanity had yet encountered. "This is Commander Rachel Daniels of the human warship Arclight. We offer an alliance," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "If you're here to help, we need your strength. The galaxy is coming for us, and we cannot survive alone." The message hung in the air, but there was no immediate response. The seconds stretched into eternity, and Rachel could feel the eyes of her crew on her, waiting for the mysterious fleet to respond. She couldn't shake the feeling that their survival hinged on this moment. And then, the unexpected happened. The unknown fleet's flagship began transmitting a reply. The voice that came through was not what they had expected. It wasn't a command, nor was it a threat. It was something else entirely. "Commander Daniels," a calm, ancient voice spoke through the speakers. "You have been watched, and you have been tested. We have seen the rise of humanity, and we have made our choice." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for. "We will stand with you, humans. Together, we will reshape the galaxy." The transmission ended abruptly, and the unknown fleet ships moved into position around Earth's warship. It was an incredible sight. An alliance forged in the darkest hour. But just as hope began to flicker, the first of the Urak ships appeared on the far edge of the solar system, followed closely by the Council's massive fleets. The battle for Earth had begun. Enemy fleets are engaging. Torres called out. The Urak are opening fire. The Council's forces are in position. We need to move now. Rachel's eyes hardened. She knew what had to be done. They had the firepower, and now they had the allies they needed. But the battle would not be easy. The fate of Earth and the galaxy rested on this final confrontation. Prepare to engage, Rachel ordered, her voice cold with resolve. This is it, everyone. The galaxy is watching, and we will show them what humanity is capable of. The battle began with a deafening roar. The human warship, powered by both their own technology and the advanced systems of the mysterious fleet, surged forward into the fray. The Urak ships unleashed a torrent of energy blasts, but the human fleet, now bolstered by their new allies, was quick to retaliate. The unknown fleet's ships moved with deadly precision, their dark forms darting through space with a grace that belied their ancient design. Earth's warship fired its powerful weapons, cutting through the Urak lines, and the unknown fleet followed suit, striking with weapons the likes of which no one had seen before. The battle was chaos, a swirling storm of fire and energy, as the two fleets clashed in the vastness of space. But the true surprise came when the Galactic Council's fleets hesitated. The sight of the unknown fleet, so far beyond their understanding, caused a brief pause in their assault. It was just long enough for Earth's forces to gain the upper hand. The humans, bolstered by the mysterious fleet, fought like never before, defying every expectation and turning the tide of battle. Rachel stood at the helm of her warship, her heart pounding as she watched the battle unfold. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, but now they were learning the hard way. Humanity was not just another pawn in the galaxy's game. They were a force to be reckoned with. We've got them on the ropes, Torres shouted, a grin spreading across his face. We're pushing the Council back.